Hello and welcome to the Digital Innovation North podcast. This podcast connects technology leaders to ideas, information, and insights that drive digital innovation right here in our region. Our guests are technology leaders from innovative companies and experts from SDG. SDG is Solution Design Group, empowering innovation for over 35 years. Hello and welcome. My name is Molly Doyle and I'm your host for this episode of Digital Innovation North. Today, we're going to be talking about low code and specifically HealthPartners' experience with implementing a low code project. And why we're talking about low code is because it was estimated that about 80% of all software development would be done through low code by 2027. And that was according to Forrester quite some time back. So what's really happening out there? What is actually the experience of companies in using low code, and is it working? Is it actually providing some solutions to business challenges? So joining me today is Ben Stori, a consultant with SDG and the head of our low code practice, Rebecca, goes by Becky, Draper from HealthPartners, and Liz Fuller, also from HealthPartners. And Liz, you have 40 years of experience as a leader at HealthPartners, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I have 40 years at HealthPartners. They weren't all in leadership. I started back in our clinics back in the day and worked my way through various jobs and now in IT. And I've been in either project management or management for like the last 20 years.
Wow, that's incredible. That might be the most the longest longevity I've ever heard of. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And while we're at it, Liz, do you want to maybe just describe your background and your role now with HealthPartners?
Sure. Currently, I'm a IT manager, and I have a couple different teams. One of them is our pharmacy administration area that supports our plan side of pharmacy work at HealthPartners, and the other is through our admin systems area with supporting ancillary systems for our claims, reprocessing, our letter system, fraud, waste, and abuse, just to name a few of those.
Those are pretty data-intensive processes.
Yes.
Hence, perhaps why low code became interesting. And Becky, tell us a little bit about your role with HealthPartners.
Sure. I support vended application and do documenting, coding, configuration, and testing and deployments.
So the whole scope. Would you consider yourself a super user or more of a analyst?
More of a super user, I would say, doing the behind the scenes configuration.
Excellent. And is that why you got involved and pinged for a low code project?
Yeah, I think having the background of doing some of the support and coding helped me transition to being able to support this type of project.
Awesome. Excellent. And Ben, give us just a little bit of background on you and your experience with low code.
Yeah, I've been doing low code for over about 20 years now. Ever since I got out of school, I started as a C# developer and then quickly found out that wasn't quite as fun as doing low code development. So made the transition and haven't really looked back ever since, and been working with the Office products and other low code products ever since. And it's been really fun to see the value that we've been able to provide our clients using these different tool sets.
It's interesting that you described it as fun. We'll come back to that because I do think that's a benefit that perhaps goes a little unrecognized.
Yeah.
So circling back to sort of the HealthPartners journey, what was the business need that percolated up for which eventually you chose a low code solution? What was the challenge that you were trying to solve?
I can start on that one. We have a pricing fee schedule that we need to produce for the contracts with our specialty pharmacy. So that was the first use case we had looked at. This particular process was being managed on spreadsheets and was pretty labor intensive. We would get spreadsheets from our PBM, and then we would have to apply different calculations based on what had been negotiated with that specialty pharmacy for their rates. And then at the end, try to produce fee schedules out of that. So it was all very much data entered into spreadsheets, manipulated manually, and then outputs were manual. And so just trying to look at a way to help automate that and save some time for our partners in pharmacy.
What was the frequency that you were having to do those updates?
I want to say monthly. Becky, are you on top of that one as day to day?
I don't recall how often they were doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was a regular enough process where you looked at the manual effort and thought, there's got to be a better way, an easier way. And certainly when you've got a manual process that can be prone to some error or some risk of error at least. And so maybe there's a lot of opportunity to avoid some of that risk, right? By applying a less manual process, right? More automated. So once you decided to go, why did you go with a low code option? What were the scenarios or opportunities that you were considering to solve for that? And then why was low code something that became a viable solution?
Sure, I can maybe start on that one too. I just went back to the project and we did a pro and con for various solutions before we landed on the low code. And we looked at some things in-house, some of the other tools that we had that might be able to automate some work processes or, give us lists or workflow capabilities or reporting capabilities, including kind of hand picking like Power BI or other things, or looking at using an Access database and creating a front end. And a lot of the cons had to do with some of the solutions weren't sustainable. We didn't, or they didn't have the right functionality in the out of the box tools that we looked at. And the one con we had with the Power Suite was we just didn't have the experience. But it kind of checked all the boxes of the tool set that could help solve the problem.
Nice. Did you also consider a custom app, like building a brand new product? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was that effort? I would assume that was more effortful than low code.
Yeah, the original estimate for this project, way before we even knew what kind of solution we would want to employ, was I just did a traditional estimate to let's build a Java app on Oracle database, and it would have been probably double or more of the time, effort, and cost where we ended up with.
That's pretty significant.
Yes.
Wow. Excellent. Okay, so you say we're going to automate this, or we're going to use a low code solution, and then you recognize that there was a skill growth need, right? You didn't have the current skills in-house, but they say low code is easy. They say low code is, you don't have to be a developer. And so why did that look like a constraint, or what did you recognize as the gap there?
Well, I can do a high level, but I'd like to also hear what Becky thought as being the person who was helping with the development. But I think the key that we learned once we started going out looking for a partner to help us was there's still that whole architecture part. Like how do you stage this data? How do you build out what is the best way to solution even within a low code environment? So that was the area that I think we lacked knowledge around, that we needed most of that assistance to get us, started.
Yeah. Awesome. So you recognize that you wanted somebody to help with architecture and just kind of coming in already knowing how to launch something like this, having that experience under their belt. So then they got to partner with you. We got to partner with you, Ben. Ben, you were one of the lucky people.
Yeah. We were able to come in and work with Liz and her team and Becky, and just dive in and review all these spreadsheets. And we had a couple really good product owners that really helped us define what their process was, basically kind of on paper, kind of flow chart type, like when they get spreadsheet X in, what do they do with it? They have to copy paste this into spreadsheet Y, and then they're doing these calculations, and who are these spreadsheets coming from, and all sorts of things. So we worked with them to figure out how we wanted to architect it within the Power Platform. Where could we use automation to help speed things up or extract data out? And then where could we use calculated fields or other means to help do a lot of these calculations that were pretty manual, and try to make them a little bit more just automatic once they started entering data from the various systems.
Sounds like a lot of analysis was required on that front end just to understand current state and then begin to design for a future state. So is that where somebody like Becky became essential, understanding current workflow? And
yeah, it is working really closely with them to understand what are their current systems, what are the limitations of all the different current systems. So, having that insight to those and being able to closely partner with HealthPartners was really important for us and really helped the success of our project, because going from spreadsheet to app, like, you don't really have anything like screens of a legacy app to go off of. Like, what are the forms and what are the screens that we need to build? So working closely with the HealthPartners team, we're able to define what these screens look like by a bunch of iterations, working with Becky, working with other product owners within the business, and truly understanding what that process was like and how they entered their data and where it needed to flow from screen to screen.
Wow. So Becky, what was that process like for you?
I think it was good that SUG was able to come in, bring their expertise, show us how to do this, and then continue working with them, showing how to actually do the low code, what their best practices are, and learning from them in order to support this after they left.
Nice. And what was it like in terms of like your role? Did you have to learn a whole bunch of new things in a technical way, or was it pretty straightforward?
I think it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of Microsoft support documents to learn and to know how to support this. It was a good transition.
So when they say that low code is viable for non-coders, or you don't have to have development background, what do you think of that assertion?
I think that is very true, and
good.
Yes. Yeah, because there's so much support out there and documentation that anyone can go look it up and understand what they are needing to do.
For people who maybe have never seen a low code solution, can you just describe what it is in the most simplest way? Is it you're basically pulling fields and dragging fields into a form and assembling the data connections?
Well, I think there's a lot of different layers with the Power Platform, whether it's you're using the BI or Power Automate or that Canvas app or model. I think there's different levels that you have to start learning and find how to fix or how to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to kind of, expand upon that as well, there is typically a lot of components, and depending on what platform you're using, it might be selecting something from a drop-down menu and then it appears on your canvas and then you drag and drop it around to where you want to get to. Or sometimes you might have a toolbox that, off to the side, you're like, oh, I need a data grid to show data, or I need a text box, or I need a form, or I need a checkbox or slider, or whatever that control might be. We're typically dragging and dropping those onto the canvas, styling it based on design specifications from our client and our design team. And then that's just really where the beauty of these apps really kind of come in, and how quickly we can do it, because we don't need to build a text box or we don't need to build a data grid. It's just there. And then we just connect it to our data sources and style it and make sure it's filtered based on user specifications.
That's very helpful just to kind of visualize, I think, for folks who haven't seen this kind of solution before. Because part of the goal of this kind of conversation is to share the potential of this kind of a solution and give people some insights about what this journey might be like, so that if they're considering, how to solve a business challenge that they might be facing, that they could consider, is low code something that might be of value to consider in terms of their challenge. What were some of the challenges that you guys had to confront along the way? Some learnings that you had? Any surprises that you encountered in the journey? any advice that you might have for somebody looking to approach a low code solution?
Well, just to piggyback on part of the last conversation about, is low code easy, et cetera. I think in my mind, as I'm not the practitioner, I didn't, build anything, but I did attempt to do something with some other people during our dev days with low code. And for me, it's still, there's a level of understanding and knowledge that you need around application development and best practice and those things. In the simplest terms, you don't have to go learn Spanish before you do something, where when you're coding in Java, so you need to learn this other language to build it. You still need to have some basic understanding of software development, I think, to be able to really benefit from the low code. And then your benefit is it's much easier to assemble that application once you have that architect figured out. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm explaining that well.
No,
but
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Liz. It is a different mindset that you have to have, not necessarily like just an everyday user mindset, but there is some logical things that you need to think about on how something might flow, because when we still do these low code projects, we still follow some legacy application best practices on how we necessarily want to build these things out. It's just we can typically get them done faster, and there's less code and less legacy code that constantly needs to be updated throughout the years. And then, passing it off to a developer like Becky, the learning curve isn't quite as high as, somebody that has to go learn object-oriented programming in Java, where I think, Liz, is kind of where you're going with that.
Right. Exactly.
That makes sense. When you talk about still understanding some best practices and how to approach application development, I would imagine that you still need to follow some of the sort of typical phases of a process in terms of understanding current state and doing some design. And, talk me through what those phases look like in a low code project.
Yeah, typically we do go through, and our design team will come in and work closely with like a person like me, a solution architect or whatnot, and we'll go in and we'll interview the business users and figure out, what's their path, and then kind of breaking that down into as many requirements, bullet points for our user stories from a Scrum standpoint as we can. And then it's, handing it off to our developers, and we're doing sprint development just like you would any typical development life cycle, and we're just iterating. And by doing that, the nice thing is we get live previews like right away. So like in a meeting, we can pull up Power Platform, hit the play button, and say, "Hey,
start prototyping."
We just built these 3 features. Is this on par with the requirements? And from a business standpoint, yep, it checks the boxes. I can enter in my data. The data calculations flow to here. So we kind of get some really nice instant gratification and feedback from that as well. And that's why I think it's fun, to kind of circle back to that is we get to use our creative, a little bit more creative abilities, because it's almost like we're painting a picture live for this versus just seeing lines of code. And then you got to merge that with other things and merge it with the JavaScript on the front end and the UIs and other stuff. It's just all like baked in right there for that. And then it's once we get the screens built, then we start to ask, well, how can we improve? We hear, oh, this person needs to get an email somewhere. Well, to me, that mind is like, all right, let's build a workflow. So when a user enters data, the workflow sitting there listening to the database, it gets the data and then just automatically sends the workflow to the right person based on outcomes. So then a user now doesn't have to remember, oh, I entered now my data. Now I got to go to Outlook or whatever. Right. And now I need to email this person. Now we're creating more efficiencies in the process as well by trying to figure out where we can add in the workflow automation pieces as well. And then it's just kind of rinse and repeat with that kind of typical life cycle. And we have our different environments. So we're building in dev, pushing to QA, and having QA.
That's back to best practices, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Even having that kind of mindset of, test it out in a safe environment before you.
Yep.
run it out there.
Have
Yeah.
our scheduled production releases and whatnot. So
And Becky, were you guys working in a cloud environment or was this
Yes.
on-prem? Okay.
Yep. I know. I think one of a couple of the benefits of working with SDG is that there was great communication, lots of discussion about what was needed or wanted.
Uh-huh.
And then, like Ben said, just iterative change, constant through each of our sprints. Does this look okay? All right, nope, you don't want it this way. All right, let's do it again. Let's try it. I think that made this project a lot easier by working with that.
Excellent. And was it fun? Because apparently it can be fun.
It is. It's so fun just to
I
quickly
wanna
do
do
something
one.
and change something, and you say, "Yep, oh, we just sent this email out. It didn't take that long at all." So
Wow.
it is fun.
Once you've gotten something like that done, and then, and oh my gosh, Liz, you pointed to the time benefit of just, almost half the time of traditional development. Do you just sort of look at all the other things that you do and kind of go, oh, I want to automate this, I want to automate that, I want to, how do you work through the opportunities within your environment to what's next,
Yeah, that actually, since we implemented the initial Power App for our pharmacy area, they wanted an additional module. So we went and did that as well, and that got done much more quickly than the original application because we were building onto that. So that was exciting to see. And then
Wow.
we have some, legacy access databases with some front ends that we would like to either get another application for or build something like a power solution for those as well. So it's really about what are the priorities, what, getting that project funding to do that work and kind of lining those things up. And also as we have created these first few applications, getting that knowledge in-house too is important. We really appreciate the partnership with SDG, but we also want to be able to, fly on our own.
Yeah, that's part of the promise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I think that's one of the key sort of promises of low code. And so, frankly, when I came to SDG just a couple months ago, I thought, well, what is the value of a consulting company when low code is supposed to be, allow you to have non-developers building apps? And so you've already pointed to having somebody come in and bring that best practices and have some sense for architecture and also just managing through, good application development standards. But yeah, that goal of self-sufficiency. So once you have sort of the environment set up and people have kind of learned the way, right? And the data is assembled in a way that you can get to it and not have to, design that, from scratch. Do you see that kind of efficiency coming where you feel like your team will be able to really truly be self-sufficient, or is there still maybe an overlay role that's needed from an outside service? And I'm not pushing for either way. I actually really want to know, what is the potential of low code?
Right. I think we're getting there. I know we have another team at HealthPartners that have been doing some work with the Power Suites and creating like a community of practice type of group. And Becky has been working with them to try to get that going, and they're bringing in more people with some experience. So I think once we have that kind of architect component in-house, we'll start going much faster using it. But I know there's an appetite, and I was even in a meeting yesterday on a access database application for one of our pharmacy areas that they wanted to talk to us again about the low code platform solutions, and also now want a demo of this existing one that we set up for early May. So we've got interest, we've got people who want to see it, and we have other opportunities.
Yeah. Becky, I love the idea of a community of practice. So that's something you're helping start up. And that makes a lot of sense. So I've seen other companies do that as well, where it almost becomes like an internal service where because you've developed some excellence, some understanding of how to manage through this. So share a little bit about how that's getting set up and what you envision for that.
Sure. There's a core group of us where we have met every couple of weeks or every couple of months, depending on how busy our schedules are. But how can we rally the troops, getting us all on a Teams page, Teams channel? How do we communicate? How do we ask each other questions? So there's a weekly meeting now where if you have any questions, go ahead. You can join the meeting and ask the experts and share your knowledge. And then constant chatter on the Teams channel as well of how can I fix this? Or have you had this experience or this issue?
Yeah. Excellent. And what about licensing? Because this is all, you guys are all on a Microsoft tool stack for all of the solutions that you're engaged with for low code, right? And so do you have to also consider expanding cost as you have more users? Is that part of the concern?
Not sure if I can, yeah.
Is that maybe part of what might get managed through a community?
Yeah, it is definitely something that people always have to take into consideration within their organization. Because you can get by if the data isn't super complex or there's just not a lot of it. You can get by with using SharePoint lists as your data source and build some free enterprise scale applications. But one of the things that we quickly recognized on the pharmacy side is we got a lot of data and the data grows very rapidly and it's very complex. So at that point, we recognized we needed to go Dataverse, and Microsoft licensed that differently. So you just treat every application a little bit different and just go through the requirements and kind of see where it falls. And hopefully it just helps with scale.
If I recall, Ben, the licenses that we needed weren't when we needed them per person, weren't all that expensive per year. I mean, it's really as we scale up, we'll have to look at that. And I know there's another area who manages that. So I am not as involved with those costs. But yeah, as we get more people out there using it and developing the tools, I'm sure we'll have to, make sure we're on top of that.
Yeah. So you've gone through this journey, you're evolving, you're continuing to build out your community of practice and look for new opportunities to leverage low code. What would you say in summary has been the benefit so far? What's the internal interest about? Why are people interested in it? What's the benefit gained so far?
I think for my team, I'm now able to visualize and put into practice changes and automation for other aspects of my job.
Oh, great.
So I think learning from this has helping even more because we're making it more efficient. We're making emails more efficient. Other legacy apps have ended, and now we can utilize Flow to make our prior authorization application work with it as well.
Nice. Efficiencies. Yeah. Excellent. So if there's a business out there that's looking at how to solve a business challenge that they have, whether it's streamlining spreadsheets or getting rid of an Access database or maybe increasing efficiencies within a team, reducing a manually intensive approach, what guidance would you have for them about getting started and evaluating low code as a potential option for them?
Well, I would start with, making sure you understand what your business problem is that you're trying to solve, and also keeping an open mind to the various solutions. When we were in this meeting the other day for another pharmacy application, I said, is there anything out there in the market too? Like, have we looked at any vendors?
Sure.
And it was like, oh no, because we have our own thing. So I think it's really like, what are those options before you just land somewhere? And also, I think until you have that experience in-house, get someone to help with that assessment. Like, is this or try to do a proof of concept. Is this the right solution for you to go down that path?
Yeah. Great advice. Becky, anything that you would add about how to get started on low code?
For me personally, take courses,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of pair programming to learn and to share knowledge, I think has been very helpful.
What classes would you recommend?
Oh, I just take Udemy classes.
What did you
courses.
study at Udemy?
Oh, there's just tons of online courses that you could take going into the specific Power Platform modules.
Whatever components that you know that
Yeah.
you're going to use for your solution.
Yep.
What do you recommend, Ben, in terms of
Yeah,
learning
a
up,
little,
educating
yeah.
up?
A little bit of everything. Udemy does have some really good courses. If you want to do specific deep dives into Power BI or Power Apps or Microsoft Power Automate, you can also see it from the architecture side, right? If you just kind of want to learn how to do that. And there's, Microsoft has some really good documentation as well. But just, one of the things that like we as SDG can help, and we've a little bit talked about it, but we laid the ground foundation for HealthPartners. Now they got a model that they can use and model other programs and projects and other things kind of after as well. So kind of once you got your education, you understand how these apps work, what's the license model.
Yeah.
It's now that ground foundation of how all of it kind of comes together.
It's really fun because it sounds like it really was a scenario which we would always want for our customers, where we were able to help them become self-sufficient and teach someone to fish, right?
Yeah.
It's just really exciting to help you guys elevate your capability and see what you can do with it. So we'll stay tuned for all the more fun and exciting things that you guys find that you can automate and streamline and make more efficient.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts that you'd like to share with folks who are listening and thinking about low code?
Come on in, the water's warm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When you think about, all the, projects that you may have in your view of what you're going to get done in the next year or so, are there some where you're like, oh, that's not a low code solution? Like now that you know what low code is potential, you also see where not to bring it. What are some circumstances in which you'd say that's not a good low code solution? Or that's not a good problem to be solved by low code?
We have some legacy systems on my other team, and they are so integrated. There's so many different API. I mean, I don't know if that's the solution. I think where you have some contained data that you're trying to manage and manipulate and produce some kind of outcomes, the combination of that dataverse with the application, with the workflow, with the Power BI layered on top, can really be powerful to do the kind of applications that we have been creating, where we're trying to develop and manage these different fee schedules. I think where you're getting pieces of an ecosystem that I would like to see replaced, I don't know if that's the best solution. I'm thinking like of our kind of claims overpayment systems and rebate. I mean, I don't know if I'm not an architect, so it's hard to know. I would consult with the Ben or our enterprise architect to say, is this a good use case? But I think where you have something a little bit more contained that's solving a business problem or two, that is where I've seen it be really helpful.
Yeah, I think I asked my question really badly, so I'm going to ask it differently. And you answered it perfectly, so
we
thank
can
you.
Edit this whole
We can edit that part out. I think my question was, what's a use case that you think wouldn't be a good use case for low code? And you already provided a great answer. So, Ben, anything that you would add to kind of what are some of the edges for which low code just should not be considered?
Just one thing to keep in mind is a lot of the things, like when we're connecting to other systems, we're typically using a connector that's Microsoft provides for us. Like if we want to connect to Azure or connect to SQL Server or things that are kind of outside the norms of Microsoft 365, there's typically a connector for that. And one thing that, with Liz alluding to APIs, that's sometimes where you got to draw the line and look at the complexity of the application and how many things is it touching. Is there a way to consolidate it? Yeah, maybe not. But if we don't really have that out of the box connector, yes, we can build them sometimes and create those custom APIs, but that's challenging, and it provides some overhead for our customers. So now they got to maintain that as well. So typically that's where we would look at and say, oh, well, this might be a .NET C# thing, or this might be a Java app or something.
Excellent. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So you're helping me appreciate the value of having an expert come in and just be able to kind of understand the size and scope and the complexity, and even know if low code is a viable solution. So I just want to mention, we do have an offering where you can meet with Ben or one of our low code experts for about, we call it 2-hour geek out sessions. So you have a 2-hour geek out session with someone like Ben to just talk about, is this a viable use case for low code, and just talk through your challenges and your questions. So welcome anybody who's listening that may have interest in that to give us a shout.
Love to talk to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and sharing your journey with us. We look forward to finding out all the fun things that HealthPartners does with low code as you move forward in your journey.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for joining the Digital Innovation North podcast. For more SDG insights and access to all of our podcasts, please visit our webpage at solutiondesign.com.